So yesterday, completely out of the blue, Microsoft announced that FPS Boost was being added to a whole load more games. And as they say themselves, it brings the total to 97. And this is what they said. Update, May 3rd, 2021. Today we released our largest drop of games featuring FPS Boost to date, bringing the total titles boosted to 97, many of which are included in Xbox Game Pass and EA Play, included with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription. What they didn't say specifically here is there's actually quite a few Ubisoft games being added as well. And so now we've got Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered, Assassin's Creed Rogue Remastered, Assassin's Creed the Ezio Collection, and Assassin's Creed Unity. Plus we've got Far Cry 4, 5, Far Cry New Dawn, Far Cry Primal, and Watch Dogs and Watch Dogs 2. We haven't got any of the Ghost Recon games as yet. So if you're a Ghost Recon fan, you're missing out there as it stands, but I'm sure they'll be added at some point. But yeah, there's a really good selection of games that have got FPS Boost now, and that will make the games feel smoother, and it will have the effect of the subjective feeling of the graphics as well. It will make them look better subjectively because there's a play between frames per second and resolution. And it's not all about resolution. The graphics can actually look better as a result of frames per second as well. Not to mention, obviously, the gameplay improvements when you're running at a higher frame rate. And, if you've played a racing game at 30 frames per second versus 60 frames per second, or a shooter at 30 frames versus 60 frames, you'll know the difference. You can feel it. Even I can feel it. And these kind of things don't affect me in the same way that they would somebody who's a top player, because obviously they will feel it more because they're more used to playing these games and they're more honed in on these things. But even I can feel it. And so this is a good thing. And, as I say, we've got some decent games. We've got Anthem. Nearly lost my voice saying that. Because I'm sure there's 3 people still out there really excited about Anthem. So having that added in is a definite bonus. And look, the selection is pretty good. I mean, you've only got to go through it, all the Battlefield games, Dying Light, Gears 4. That's an interesting one. Serb on my Discord was saying that he thought that adding FPS Boost to Gears 4 might not necessarily be an advantage because the way it works means that it may well be dropping down the resolution in order to get 60 hertz, and you can actually get higher refresh rate at a higher resolution without having FPS Boost. So you'll have to play around with that and see how it works for you. And I've not looked into it yet as such, but FPS Boost isn't always the panacea. It doesn't solve all the problems. And as you can see here, it's not available in all circumstances on the Series S. And that's obviously because the Series S is less powerful. But still, it's a good selection of games. You go down here. My lad used to like Plants vs. Zombies, don't play it anymore. Prey is taking up to 60 hertz. So that's going to play more smoothly on console now. Shadow Warrior 2, Sniper Elite 4, I think that was already there. I was playing around with that a couple of weeks ago, so I think that was already there. But yeah, a good selection of games. Oh, you got The Division as well. I didn't realise that was on there. But that Titanfall 2, looking forward to being able to play Titanfall 2 at 120 hertz. I can't at the moment because I don't have a monitor or a screen that will handle it. But sooner or later, I will be getting one, and that's going to be fun because I really enjoy Titanfall 2. It's a fantastic game. And if you haven't played the campaign in that game, you should go and play the campaign in that game because it's an awesome campaign. Even if it is very short, but it's good. Very, very good. And I'd love to see a Titanfall 3. But anyway, off topic. Let's carry on with this. I really like what Microsoft are doing with this. I really like the fact that they've invested their time in things like FPS Boost and Auto HDR. And it makes old games look and play better. And that's no bad thing. And I know, look, some of the PlayStation fans out there are going to be saying it's completely pointless and where are your new games and all this. And Microsoft are bringing new games. You know, they don't bought all those studios just to sit there and have the people in the studios twiddling their thumbs and doing nothing. So we are going to be getting new games, and I suspect we're going to get some this year. And Sony will give us some new games this year as well. It's going to be an interesting year. Nevertheless, in the periods between having new games, it's nice to be able to go back and revisit your back catalogue. And if you can revisit your back catalogue and play those games at higher frame rates and with better graphics and auto HDR and all these kind of things, so much the better. What's not to like about this? And I've got a question for you as well. How many games that you have in your collection have you played? Because if you look at the statistics on this, most people don't finish the games they buy. That's just the reality of it. In most instances, most people don't play the games they buy. Certainly not to completion. So here's the next question. How many games of those that you have in your collection have you finished? And of those that you've finished, how many would you like to play again? Because I've certainly got games that I would like to go through and play again. I mean, Gears of War 4 I could happily play again. And games like Quantum Break, I could happily go through and play Quantum Break again. If they have added any, enhancements to Quantum Break, I'd love to play it again. And FPS Boost would be great, I think, on Quantum Break, because if I remember rightly, it was a bit janky in that department. I think it ran at 30 or something like that. So you've got your back catalogue, and you're looking forward to all these new games that are coming out. But there's all these games in your back catalogue that you never finished. Wouldn't you like to go back and play them with better frame rates and better graphics and auto HDR? Of course you would. Any sensible person would. And this is where I think Microsoft have really stepped ahead of both Sony, and I don't think it's even debatable. They have stepped ahead of both Sony and Nintendo in this area. And they've shown a commitment to their own legacy, if you like. And let's not get too carried away here. While they have showed a commitment, that there also is the element that they're a business and this looks good, and this is a way of filling in the gaps. I actually said this, I think, to Grant, who sometimes sits in with me and we record chip chat episodes on occasion. And I said this to him. I said that I actually think that they introduced backwards compatibility because they knew they didn't have many games come in, and they wanted to fill the gaps. They wanted to fill in and give something for people to play while they were waiting for these new games. And while I don't think that was necessarily the best way of going about things, and we do want new games, there are going to be gaps, and there are going to be times when you want to go back and play your old games. And Microsoft are giving us the opportunity to do this in the best possible way. But it's a business thing. They're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart. They're not doing it because they love us or anything like that. The fact of the matter is, if you look at the Forza games disappear. So they're not entirely committed to their back catalogue, because if they were, they'd make sure those Forza games stayed in the catalogue rather than dropping out after a few years. And I know it's to do with rights issues, but they need to sort those out. And personally, I would like to see the Forza games all turn up in a kind of Forza collection, like we got Master Chief collection, that kind of thing. And, there's some old games as well. This the Project Gotham games and things like that. I'd like to see them. If they're really committed, they need to bring those games back. And I'm sure there's games out there that you would love to see as well. But if they could bring them back, we're going to see them with FPS Boost, Auto HDR, and all the other stuff. And that's a good thing. So yeah, these, 97 games? As they say here, 97 games. It's a bloody good start. And it is showing a commitment. And you can bet your bottom dollar we're going to get some more of these, probably E3 and throughout the year. I wouldn't be at all surprised that by the end of the year there's 200 games available with these boosts. And it's not always perfect. I know that Serb in my Discord was saying that, was it Gears 4? If we go back here, Gears 4 is on the list. Where is it? Gears 4's on the list. But apparently FPS Boost on Gears 4 isn't necessarily great, because it maybe will run better without FPS Boost. But Your experience will tell you what you need to know about that. And I'm sure Digital Foundry will have a look at stuff like that. And once we know, we'll know what settings we should use. But overall, as a general rule, it's a great bloody thing. And I can't wait to see what other titles they add in. And I can't wait to see if they actually bring us some of the bloody other backwards compatible titles that I've been waiting for ages. Get your finger out, guys. But yeah, I think this is fantastic. I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited. As someone who very rarely gets to finish games these days because of, other constraints on my time, it's nice to be able to go back to these games. And I know I keep repeating that, but that's the reality of, if you're an adult and you've got family and all the rest of it, that's the reality of your life. I don't sit there playing games for 5, 6, 7 hours a day. I just don't have the time. So there's games in my collection that I've got quite a way through and I didn't finish. And there's games that I started that I'd want to go back to. I mean, if we go, I'll just show you what I mean. If we go to my Xbox, I mean, this is my S, so there's not a lot of games on here, but you've got Gears 4. We go here. If you look here, I've got Enslaved. Now, I started Enslaved. Now, this hasn't got FPS Boost on it as yet. Hopefully it will. But I started in Enslaved. Not absolutely sure how it runs at the moment. I played it the other day, but wasn't paying a great deal of attention. But I started that years ago. Loved it. I thought it was a great game. But I only played it for about 2 or 3 hours, and then I got distracted. Some other game came out or something. I don't know exactly what the reason was, but I never went back to it until the other week when I made a video. And I featured it in the video. So that's a game that I would love to go back to. And any enhancements will only make it better. So yeah, I think Microsoft are doing great here. And I can't wait to see what else they offer. It's exciting times. And hopefully Sony will respond in some way. And, maybe we will get PlayStation 3 games on the PlayStation 5 at some point. I really hope so. And I hope they offer us the ability to play the discs we own as well, because it's all very well PlayStation Now. But, you just have to stick your disc in your Xbox and you can play it. And in the long run, it doesn't matter to Microsoft that you're not buying a backwards compatible game because you've already got it on disc. Sooner or later, it's all going to go all digital and you'll buy it digitally anyway because, it'll be cheap and you'll get it. If you want to play that game, you'll probably buy it digitally sometime, down the road. So I don't understand why Sony don't embrace this a bit more, because it's a no-brainer, really, and it can't hurt. It just make them look good. If they announced around about E3 this year that PlayStation 3 games were being made backwards compatible on the PlayStation 3, can you imagine the uproar? People would go mental. And it'd make them look really good. As opposed to some of the news that's been coming out about them recently, like they were charging companies to have crossplay on their games if the revenue were to do with the way the revenue worked. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, as I say, I think this is terrific. 97 more games added to FPS Boost and more to come. So, as I say, I think it's great. If you think it's great, let me know in the comments. If you don't, let me know in the comments and we can have a discussion about it. And if you really want to get into it, come over to my Discord, because you can get into it in more detail in a forum like Discord as opposed to the comments on YouTube. But give us a thumbs up, all the usual stuff. Like, subscribe, you know the drill. And I'm going to go and get myself a cup of tea, surprisingly. And I'll speak to you... biting my own tongue there. And I'll speak to you guys in the next one. Bye.